It's Nolan.
Now, before we get started, make sure y'all hitting that like button. Make sure y'all sharing it on your respective platforms. Let somebody know what we're doing today. Now, let's get into the show.
Ayy, I've been waiting for something for me to snap on. Graduated from the freestyle, stay with a cap on. Black on, been in my publishing for these rap songs. Making whack nigga back off, let the cash grow. 5 in the morning, I'm up with my baby, no sleeping. Clown niggas, y'all Barnum and Bailey, I'm creeping. Got an army with me, nah, it's a Navy, so y'all better pay me like K-Dot, them arms will be waving. I had a couple brushes with devils, quiet as kelp. I'm charging for air, you boys talk under your breath. God is my witness, he with me, and he counting my steps. So anybody riding with me, y'all should double your bets. I chose W's, like Aisha Wilson out this bitch. Nigga argue about the gold, I want a Billy out this bitch. I been counting more cheese like a Philly in this shit. A verse hard white like I'm breaking down a brick. Ratchet on me like the repo man. They done brought me back to life like Encino man. Ran off with the yams like an elope man. I got dealt with the chip, I'm the Frito man. I want millions, Benzes, numbers up senses. Nigga try to count me out, now I want vengeance. 100 rat taught me how to run it back. Clemson, all I do is work in my city, I need pension. Somebody said it'd be disrespectful to rap on it. I'm by business, y'all niggas ain't got the acumen. Immaculate, I've been adamant with these savages. The flow is so extravagant, extrapolating arrogance. Thought it ain't drop yet. Bitch, I got plans too. Nigga wanna scrap about it, bitch, I got hands too. Y'all got a nigga twisted like a can too. I clean them out like shampoo. I pity y'all some damn fools.
What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. Hope everybody's doing well out there this evening. Hey man, the Drake lawsuit to UMG trying to incriminate Kendrick Lamar's lyrics on Not Like Us and other diss records aimed at him has been dismissed. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Did not see this coming. Y'all know I've been covering this all year. Honestly, I did not think that the judge was going to dismiss at this stage. I thought they were going to have to go to trial. No trial is needed. The judge has tossed it. Case closed. I don't want to waste a lot of time here. I gave y'all the headline, but let's get into the weeds of what the Judge Vargas has to say. All right, so this is a 38-page entry into the docket. United States District Court, Southern District of New York, Aubrey Drake Graham plaintiff versus UMG Recordings, Inc. Opinion and order from the judge, Jeanette A. Vargas. She states, this case arises from perhaps the most infamous rap battle in the genre's history. The vitriolic war of words that erupted between superstar recording artists Aubrey Drake Graham and Kendrick Lamar Duckworth in the spring of 2024 over the course of 16 days. The two artists released 8 so-called diss tracks with increasingly heated rhetoric, loaded accusations, and violent imagery. As you can see, she's leading with all of the diss records being taken into consideration, not just one. The penultimate song of this feud, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar, dealt the metaphorical killing blow. The song contains lyrics explicitly accusing Drake of being a PDF, set to a catchy beat and propulsive bass line. Not Like Us went on to become a cultural sensation, achieving immense commercial success and critical acclaim. Both Drake and Kendrick Lamar have recording contracts with defendant UMG Recordings, Inc. Drake alleges that UMG intentionally published and promoted Not Like Us while knowing that the song's insinuations that he has sexual relations with minors were false and defamatory. Drake has brought this action against UMG for defamation, harassment in the second degree, and violation of Section 349 of the New York General Business Law. Before the court is defendant's motion to dismiss pursuant to Rule 12b-6 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, because the court concludes that the allegedly defamatory statements in Not Like Us are non-actionable opinion, the motion to dismiss is granted. Holy shit. So before people start coming out here talking about Rock Nation or, oh my God, they settled behind the scenes, UMG is going to send Drake $130 million, $1 billion. This is the judge dismissing this motherfucker. This ain't Drake coming in and saying I'm backing down. This is the judge saying you don't have a case. Legal standards. To survive a motion to dismiss, a complaint must contain sufficient factual matter accepted as true to state a claim to relief that is plausible on its face. A plaintiff may not simply allege facts that are consistent with liability. The complaint must nudge plaintiff's claim across the line from conceivable to plausible. That's a very interesting distinction. Conceivable to plausible. Not you can think it, but it has to be a bit more believable. When ruling on a motion to dismiss under Rule 12b-6, the court accepts as true all well-pleaded allegations and draws all reasonable inferences in favor of the non-moving party. The court need not credit legal conclusions couched as factual allegations. However, the court may also consider documents incorporated in the complaint by reference in matters of which judicial notice may be taken. Judicial notice is appropriate when a matter is not subject to reasonable dispute because it is generally known within the trial court's territorial jurisdiction or can be accurately and readily determined from sources whose accuracy cannot reasonably be questioned. Background. The following background is largely taken from the allegations in the amended complaint, which are assumed true for purposes of this motion. Additionally, defendant requests the court take judicial notice of certain extrinsic evidence pursuant to Rule 201 of the Federal Rules of Evidence. These exhibits include the lyrics of the songs released as part of Drake and Kendrick Lamar's rap battle. The dates on which these songs were released and the lyrics of these songs are not reasonably subject to dispute. And the songs themselves are, with one exception, all referenced in the amended complaint. Accordingly, the court will take judicial notice of exhibits H through I and exhibits K through O to the request for judicial notice to understand defendant's alleged statements in their necessary and proper context. Exhibits B, J, and P are directly referenced and relied upon in plaintiff's amended complaint, so those documents are likewise properly before the court. And because the document can be accurately and readily determined from sources whose accuracy cannot reasonably be questioned, the court also takes judicial notice of the search results from the New York Times website in Exhibit C. So the judge did take into consideration the articles published around Drake and etc., texting Millie Bobby Brown and all that type of stuff. The court takes judicial notice of the existence of the listed articles, but not the truth of their contents. All right. Factual allegations. Drake is a prominent recording artist and songwriter among other public-facing endeavors. Amended complaint. Drake has had a successful music career under defendant UMG for at least 20 years. UMG uses its brands and imprints or labels to provide its music artists with the means to create, promote, and distribute their music commercially. Defendant through Universal Music Publishing Group holds exclusive publishing and distribution rights to Drake's music as well as that of artist Kendrick Lamar. On April 19, 2024, Drake released a diss track directed at Kendrick Lamar called Push-Ups. Drake mocks Lamar's height and shoe size. How the fuck you big stepping with a size 7 men's on? Pipsqueak pipe down and questions Lamar's success. You ain't in no big 3. I'm at the top of the mountain, so you tight now. Just to have this talk with your ass, I had to hike down. A few days later, Drake released Tailor-Made Freestyle, in which he used artificial intelligence-generated voices of deceased rapper Tupac and rapper Snoop Dogg to goad Lamar. In the track, Tupac and Snoop Dogg shared their disappointment that Lamar had not yet responded to push-ups. Kendrick, we need ya. The West Coast savior. You seem a little nervous about all the publicity. You gotta show this fucking owl who the boss on the West. Drake in his own voice further taunts Kendrick for failing to come up with a satisfactory response, saying, I know you're in that New York apartment. You're struggling right now. I know it. In the notepad doing lyrical gymnastics, my boy. Drake also surmises that Kendrick was purposefully delaying his response because artist Taylor Swift had just released a new album. Shout out to Taylor Swift, biggest gangster in the music game right now. She got the whole PG Lang on mute like that Beyonce challenge. Y'all boys quiet for the weekend. Lamar fired back at Drake in Euphoria, which was released on April 30th, 2024. In the track, Lamar claims, I make music that electrify him, you make music that pacify him, and that he would spare Drake this time. That's random acts of kindness. He accuses Drake of fabricating his claims. Know you a master manipulator and habitual liar too, but don't tell no lie about me and I won't tell truths about you. He insults Drake's fashion sense. I hate the way you walk, the way you talk. I hate the way that you dress. Further raps, I believe you don't like women. It's real competition. You might pop ass with them. And taunts Drake for being a coward with his response. I hate the way that you sneak this. If I catch flight, it's going to be direct. Oh, yes, Judge. Good job. On May 3rd, 2024, the feud between Drake and Lamar escalated as they lobbed increasingly vicious personal accusations at each other over the course of the day. First, Lamar released 616 in LA, in which he calls Drake a terrible person. Lamar accuses Drake of playing dirty with propaganda and raps that if Drake was street smart, then he would have caught on that his entourage is only there to hustle him. Drake's next response arrived later that day in Family Matters. Drake jabs at Lamar's relationship with his partner. You the black messiah wifing up a mixed queen and hit vanilla cream to help you out with your self-esteem. On some Bobby shit, I want to know what Whitney need. And implies that Lamar physically abused her. Thank you, Judge, for acknowledging this. You a dog and you know it. You just play sweet. Your baby mama captions always screaming, save me. You did a dirty all your life. You trying to make peace. Moreover, Drake calls into question whether Lamar is the biological father of one of his children. I heard that one of them little kids might be Dave Free. Don't make it Dave Freeze. Almost immediately after the release of Family Matters, Lamar unleashed the scathing Meet the Grrrls, in which he accuses Drake of being a deadbeat father and of hiding the existence of other children. You lied about your son, you lied about your daughter, huh? You lied about them other kids out there hoping that you come. Lamar also alleges that Drake has gambling problems, drinking problems, pill popping and spending problems, bad with money, whorehouse, soliciting women problems. Therapy's a lovely start. He further insinuates that Drake was a predator and that Drake should die, so all of these women can live with a purpose. The next day on May 4th, 2024, Lamar released Not Like Us. Not Like Us explicitly names Drake and his associates as PDFs. Specifically, the track contains the following lyrics. Say, Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs. And Party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baca got a weird case. Why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified PD files. What? Die fuck him on. What? I'm gonna do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. On May 5th, 2025, Drake responded in The Heart Part 6, directly denying Lamar's allegations of PDF activity. I never been with no one underage, but now I understand why this angle that you really mess with. Just for clarity, I feel disgusted. I'm too respected. If I was fucking young girls, I promise I'd have been arrested. I'm way too famous for this you just suggested. Drake is not a name that you find on no sex offender list. In the track, Drake further sneers that this Epstein was the shit he expected and accused Lamar of wanting to misdirect. Drake also alleges that he had planted some of the information Lamar has used against him. Very key also. Not only did you goad him, you told him to call you a PDF, but you then claimed that you fed him the information. We plotted for a week and then we fed you the information, but you so thirsty you're not concerned with investigation. You gotta learn to fact check things and be less impatient. Little man ain't crying today. Not Like Us was a huge commercial success. It has gained immense popularity on streaming and social media platforms. It has been streamed globally more than 1.4 billion times on Spotify alone as of April 2025. On November 8th, 2024, the Recording Academy nominated Not Like Us for several Grammy Awards, and in February 2025, it won Record of the Year. A week later, on February 9th, 2025, Kendrick Lamar performed Not Like Us live during the Apple Music Super Bowl halftime show. The performance is alleged to be the most watched Super Bowl halftime show of all time, with over 133.5 million views. Procedural history. Plaintiff bring claims for defamation, harassment in the second degree, which was crazy, in violation of New York General Business Law Section 349 based upon UMG's publication and promotion of Not Like Us. Defendant has filed a motion to dismiss the amended complaint. On June 30th, 2025, the court heard oral argument from both parties concerning the motion to dismiss and the request for judicial notice, and Drake's legal team got ate the fuck up. We went through it. Plaintiff contends that he was defamed when defendant decided to publish, promote, exploit, and monetize allegations that it understood were not only false but dangerous. Plaintiff alleges that the recording repeatedly accuses Drake of engaging in criminal acts, including PDF activity and other acts that would require registering as a SO and of being registered as a SO. The amended complaint alleges that the song implies that Lamar has heard, albeit from undisclosed sources and concerning undisclosed individuals, that Drake has a predilection for underage women. According to the amended complaint, the reference to Cell Block 1 is a thinly veiled threat that Drake should be careful that he never ends up in prison, a place where child predators are notoriously the targets of violence. The line, certified lover boy, certified pedophile, is a perverse reference to Drake's 2021 album, Certified Lover Boy. Plaintiff argues that the use of the term certified communicates that Drake has been found to be a PDF. And the final line of his passage plays on the dual meaning of minor, a person under the age of 18, and a musical scale. I thought that was pretty clever. I think the world agreed. Plaintiff further cites as defamatory the recording's descriptions of Drake as Malibu Most Wanted and a predator, and that his name got to be registered and placed on Neighborhood Watch. I still don't understand how y'all took Malibu's Most Wanted as that when he was simply calling you B-Rad, the fake white rapper who got tossed in a trash full of white bread. The associated music video, where's your pop culture history? Anyway, shows images associated with S trafficking to reinforce the PDF accusation. The recording is also accompanied by an album image of Drake's home in Toronto, which is plastered in icons used by law enforcement and public safety applications to denote the residences of registered SOs. Discussion for defamation claims. Under New York law, the elements of a defamation claim are 1, a defamatory statement of fact. Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. All right. 8. Defamatory statement of fact. 2, regarding the plaintiff. 3, published to a third party. 4, that is false. 5, made with the applicable level of fault. 6, causing injury. And 7, not protected by privilege. All right. A defamatory statement is one that exposes an individual to public hatred, shame, obloquy, contumely, odium, contempt. I don't even know what the hell that is. Contempt, ridicule, aversion, ostracism, degradation, or disgrace, or induces an evil opinion of one in the minds of right-thinking persons, and deprives one of confidence and friendly intercourse in society. Not the intercourse in your bedroom. The issue in this case is whether Not Like Us can reasonably be understood to convey as a factual matter that Drake is a PDF or that he has engaged in sexual relations with minors. In light of the overall context in which the statements in the recording were made, the court holds that it cannot. A fact versus opinion. Under the First Amendment, there is no such thing as a false idea. Only assertions of facts are capable of being proven false. Moreover, the New York Constitution provides for absolute protection of opinions. Thus, courts must distinguish between statements of fact, which may be defamatory, and expressions of opinion, which are not defamatory and have the full protection of the New York Constitution. Whether a challenged statement is fact or opinion is a legal question. Plaintiff argues that it is inappropriate for the court to determine at the pleading stage whether a reasonable listener would perceive the recording as fact or opinion. Yet, because this is a question of law, the New York courts routinely resolve this question at the motion to dismiss stage. Holding on a motion to dismiss that challenged statement constitutes opinions. Whether a statement is a fact or opinion is a question for the law for courts to be decided based on what the average person hearing or reading the communication would take it to mean, and is appropriately raised at the motion to dismiss stage. Okay. There is a particular value in resolving defamation claims at the pleading stage so as not to protract litigation through discovery and trial and thereby chill the exercise of constitutionally protected freedoms. And distinguishing between facts and opinion, 3 factors guide the court's consideration. So this is what brought Judge Vargas to the conclusion. Whether the specific language in issue has a precise meaning, which is readily understood. 2, whether the statements are capable of being proven true or false. And 3, whether either the full context of the communication in which the statement appears or the broader social context and surrounding circumstances are such as to signal readers or listeners that what is being read or heard is likely to be opinion, not fact. And I think the judge relied very heavily on this third piece here, because she was able to deduce that this was opinion and not implied to be a fact. The court conducts this inquiry through the lens of a reasonable listener. Plaintiff's suit is focused on a single factual message conveyed by the recording, the false allegation that Drake is a PDF. The recording is myopically focused on ensuring that listeners take one message away from the song, Drake is a PDF. This statement has a readily understandable meaning, and it is capable of being proven true or false, but even accusations of criminal behavior are not actionable if, understood in context, they are opinion rather than fact. Thus, this court will focus its analysis on the third factor. See, this inquiry is a holistic one, which looks to the overall context in which the assertions were made. Okay? In order to assess the impact that the statements would have on a reasonable listener, context includes the forum in which the communication was published, the surrounding circumstances, as in the battle, the tone and language of the communication because it was a battle, and its apparent purpose to disparage you in a battle. Forum. To start, the court considers the forum in which the allegedly defamatory statements appear, as that is a useful gauge for determining whether the reasonable reader will treat it more readily as opinion than fact. For example, the average listener is more likely to understand statements made on a news program or in a journalistic piece to be factual, while statements made in the opinion page of a newspaper or in an internet comment page are generally perceived as opinion. And remember, Drake brought a whole slew of internet comments. The common expectation is that the columns and articles published on a newspaper's op-ed sections will represent the viewpoints of their authors and as such contain considerable hyperbole, speculation, diversified forms of expression, and opinion. The culture of internet communications, as distinct from that of print media such as newspapers and magazines, has been characterized as encouraging a freewheeling, anything-goes writing style. The fact that the allegedly defamatory statement appeared on Twitter conveys a strong signal to a reasonable reader that this was defendant's opinion. The media vehicles used to disseminate the alleged defamation, the WordPress blog. So they're using other examples from other cases that were similar to this that basically were dismissed from defamation. The form in which a statement appears is not dispositive of the fact versus opinion inquiry, but it does provide contextual indicia that can inform the court's analysis. The forum here is a music recording, in particular a rap diss track with accompanying video and album art. Diss tracks are much more akin to forums like YouTube and X, which encourage a freewheeling, anything-goes writing style than journalistic reporting. The average listener is not under the impression that a diss track is the product of a thoughtful or disinterested investigation conveying to the public fact-check verifiable content, right? Because they're just throwing insults at each other and trying to get under each other's skin and create a spectacle around the opponent. Whether it's true or not, if it's believable enough based on what you've done or how you've come across in the public, it's subject to be brought up in a rap battle. Surrounding circumstances. Next, the court considers the full context of the communication in which the statement appears, including the setting surrounding the communication. The fact that the recording was made in the midst of a rap battle is essential to assessing its impact on a reasonable listener. Even apparent statements of fact may assume the character of statements of opinion when made in public debate, heated labor dispute, or other circumstances in which an audience may anticipate the use of epithets, fiery rhetoric, or hyperbole, words we've heard from UMG this entire year. As context is key, defamatory statements advanced during the course of a heated public debate, during which an audience would reasonably anticipate the use of epithets, fiery rhetoric, or hyperbole, are not actionable. Okay? The decision by the New York Court of Appeals in Steinhilber, is instructive in this regard. In Steinhilber, the allegedly defamatory statements were published in a tape-recorded telephone message that was played automatically to anyone dialing the private phone number that was given to labor union members. The union had assessed a fine against plaintiff after she had defied a strike order, and the phone message appeared after she had failed to pay the fine. The New York Court of Appeals found that the most significant circumstance was that the message was prepared and played as part of the union's effort to punish a former member. The court highlighted that in the emotional aftermath of a strike, when animosity would be expected to persist, particularly against a former member who was seen as a traitor to the cause, that a listener would not expect that any insults lobbed would be factual in nature. Interesting. Similarly, in Terrain v. Liu, the Second Circuit affirmed the dismissal of a complaint at the pleading stage, holding that as a matter of law, comments that plaintiff was a sick racist PDF, a loser PDF, a broadcaster PDF, goddamn, a child predator, a lunatic, and that he must be put behind bars were expressions of opinion. Hate to be whoever that guy was, though. In reaching this conclusion, the Second Circuit relied upon the context in which these statements were made. Specifically, the comments were a part of a war of words between disc jockeys at rival radio stations that received extensive media coverage and commentary. As part of that feud, the plaintiff made comments on air suggesting that he would sexually abuse the minor, oh my God, daughter of the defendant. The Second Circuit concluded that in this context, no reasonable listener could have perceived the defendant's response to state or imply assertions of objective facts. So they even let that slide in the court, which low-key is indefensible, but whatever. In Rappaport v. Barstool, this was a subject of both Drake and UMG's lawsuit and rebuttals. The district court found that an audience would not reasonably conclude that statements suggesting that the plaintiff had herpes and had abused his ex-girlfriend constituted assertions of facts when published in a 6-minute diss track music video. The district court observed that the statements were delivered in the midst of a public and very acrimonious dispute between the parties that would have been obvious to even the most casual observer. The video in question reviewed the recent history of the acrimonious dispute that resulted in Rappaport's termination just days before the video's publication, and also included a Photoshop photo of the defendant in a derogatory manner. That clear background contextualized for the audience that the statements in the video are being offered in the midst of a hostile public feud between Rappaport and Barstool. Just as in Steinhilber, Rappaport and Terrain, the recording was published as a part of a heated public feud in which both participants exchanged progressively caustic, inflammatory insults and accusations. So this is the thing. If they're jockeying back and forth, playing tennis with insults, it gets harder to prove defamation because you're both partaking in this exchange. This is precisely the type of context in which an audience may anticipate the use of epithets, fiery rhetoric, or hyperbole rather than factual assertions. A rap diss track would not create more of an expectation in the average listener that the lyrics state sober facts instead of opinion than the statements at issue in those cases. For example, in Euphoria, Lamar calls Drake a master manipulator, an habitual liar, and a scam artist. Drake responds in Family Matters by heavily implying that Lamar is a domestic abuser. He also raps that he heard that one of Lamar's sons may not be biologically his. Why you never hold your son and tell him say cheese? We could have left the kids out of this. Don't blame me. I heard that one of the little kids might be Dave Free. In Meet the Grrrls, Lamar takes issue with Drake involving his family members in their feud. Dear Aubrey, I know you're probably thinking I wanted to crash your party, but truthfully, I don't have a hating bone in my body. It's supposed to be a good exhibition within the game, but you fucked up the moment you called out my family's name. Why you had to stoop so low to discredit some decent people. In that same track, Lamar alleges that Drake uses the weight loss drug Ozempic. Don't cut them corners like your daddy did. Fuck what Ozempic did. Don't pay to play with them Brazilians. Get a gym membership. Lamar also insinuates that Drake knowingly hires sexual offenders. Grew facial hair because he understood being a beard just fit him better. He got S offenders on OV Ho that he keep on a monthly allowance. Of particular relevance in tailor-made freestyle, Drake challenged Lamar to make the PDF accusations at issue using the artificially generated voice of deceased rapper Tupac. Drake goads Lamar. I'm not going to repeat this again because we've read these fucking lyrics in Tupac voice so many times. It is in the context in which such lyrics as "Say Drake, I Hear You Like I'm Young" from the recording must be assessed. The similarity in the wording suggests strongly that this line is a direct callback to Drake's lyrics in the prior song. The art of songwriting. Plaintiff argues that the court should ignore the songs that came before and assess Not Like Us as a singular entity, basically to strip himself of any wrongdoing. Don't look at my disc records, listen to his. Plaintiff argues that the average listener is not someone who is familiar with every track released as part of the rap battle before listening to the recording, because the recording has achieved a level of cultural ubiquity far beyond the other 7 songs. Plaintiff contends that courts should not consider those other tracks in assessing how the average listener of the recording would perceive the allegations regarding Drake. Judge says there are a number of flaws with this argument. Not Like Us cannot be viewed in isolation, but must be placed in its appropriate factual context. Statements must first be viewed in their context in order for courts to determine whether a reasonable person would view them as expressing or implying any facts. Here, that factual context is the insults and trash talking that took place via these diss tracks in the days and weeks leading up to the publication of Not Like Us. The songs released during this rap battle are in dialogue with one another. They reference prior songs and then respond to insults and accusations made by the rival artist. The songs thus must be read together to fully assess how the general audience will perceive the statements in the recording. Notably, the Second Circuit rejected a similar argument in Terrain. There, the plaintiff argued that the district court improperly considered the statements that he made during his War of Words because they were not included in his complaint. The Second Circuit held that because the court must look at the overall context in which a statement was made in order to determine if it is actionable, the district court properly considered all statements made during the feud between the disc jockeys, regardless of whether they were included in the complaint. Moreover, while plaintiff is correct that the intended audience for the recording is the general public and not a subset of rap devotees or Kendrick Lamar fans, the recordings in the rap battle were likewise released to the general public. These songs were not songs accessible to a select niche few, but tracks released by commercially successful artists. Okay, so they're saying the sample size was music fans in general. These were not exclusively released to certain subsets of their fans. These were very public records that you could find if anyone were to look. So we're not going to make it seem like people just don't know what's going on, even though this song just happened to become far more popular than the rest. While Not Like Us may be the most popular of the diss tracks, the other songs were hits in their own right, with streams in the tens of millions or hundreds of millions. Yeah. Additionally, it was not just the recording which gained a cultural ubiquity, but the rap battle itself. In deciding this motion to dismiss, the court need not blind itself to the public attention garnered by this particular rap battle. The court takes judicial notice of the extensive mainstream media reporting that surrounded the release of Not Like Us and the associated feud between Drake and Lamar. Okay? So, the court must consider the entire rap battle to assess whether the average listener would take Lamar's statements as objective fact or opinion. All right. Perhaps most fatally for plaintiff's argument, it would render protection for artistic expression dependent upon an impermissible retroactive analysis. At the time he released Not Like Us, Kendrick Lamar could not have been aware that it would break streaming records, win Record of the Year at the Grammys, or be featured at the Super Bowl halftime show. And basically, Drake was trying to convince the courts that Kendrick Lamar and UMG were leveraging relationships, providing incentives, and just doing backhanded deals in order to guarantee that he would achieve these heights. Yet plaintiff would have the court divorce the recording from the context in which it was created because of these subsequent events. Whether publications constitute actionable fact or protected opinion cannot vary based upon the popularity they achieve. Constitutional guarantees do not rest on such a flimsy foundation. Very interesting language, Judge. Plaintiff counters that even if the recording was protected opinion at the time of its initial publication, UMG's republication of Not Like Us in the months following after it achieved unprecedented levels of commercial success exposes it to liability. They say this argument is logically incoherent. If the recording was non-actionable opinion at the time it was initially produced, then its republication would not expose UMG to liability. So basically they're saying, hey, it may have been protected before it blew up, but now that it's bigger and they decided to send it out to radio and make a music video and it's been accepted as one of the biggest songs in history, Grammys, then we need to look at it with further scrutiny. That was what Drake and his legal team were trying to get the judge to side with. The judge says no. Okay? Republication cannot transform Lamar's statement of opinion into UMG's statement of fact. I know it's gotta be some angry motherfuckers in the chat right now. Tone and language. That the recording can only be reasonably understood as opinion is reinforced by the language employed in the song. Loose, figurative, or hyperbolic statements, even if deprecating the plaintiff. Cleaned up and imaginative expression cannot constitute actionable defamation. A court may also consider whether the general tenor of the publication negates the impression that challenged statements imply defamatory facts about the plaintiff. More examples. In Rappaport, for example, the court concluded that the tone and apparent purpose of the diss track, especially considering in use of hyperbolic and vitriolic words and imagery, further reinforced for the audience that the video is not intended to reflect an accurate factual assessment of Rappaport. The district court faced no difficulty concluding that the context of this diss track video reasonably signals to viewers that the challenge statements are the prejudiced, opinionated viewpoints of the Barstool defendants. The Second Circuit affirmed the district court's analysis, concluding that the nature and tone of the surrounding language can function as a strong indicator to the reasonable reader that the statement is not expressing or implying any facts. Not Like Us is replete with profanity, trash talking, threats of violence, and figurative and hyperbolic language, all of which are indicia of opinion. A reasonable listener would not equate a song that contains lyrics such as "Ain't no law, boy, you ball boy, fetch Gatorade" or something. "Since 2009, I had this bitch jumping," with accurate factual reporting, although since 2009, he has been pumping. Accordingly, the reasonable listener of Not Like Us would conclude that Lamar is rapping hyperbolic vituperations. Ooh, got some vocab on you, Judge. Plaintiff contends that in determining if the lyrics Not Like Us express fact or opinion, the court must consider the subjective views of listeners as well as commentators in the rap industry and the press who understood the recording, video, and image as an attempt to convey a precise factual message. PDF activity about Drake. The amended complaint cites extensively to comments and posts from YouTube and Instagram that expressed the belief that the recording had exposed the truth and that Drake truly was engaged in PDF and sexual violence against children. But distinguishing between fact and opinion is a question of law for the courts to be decided based on what the average person hearing or reading the communication would take it to mean. The dispositive inquiry is whether a reasonable listener could have concluded that the statements were conveying facts about the plaintiff. Courts make that determination by looking at the full context and surrounding circumstances of the challenged communication. The court holds, based upon a full consideration of the context in which Not Like Us was published, that a reasonable listener could not have concluded that Not Like Us was conveying objective facts about Drake. The views expressed by users KOKen 8026, Mr. Wright 8439, and ZXZ Nebula, and the other YouTube and Instagram commentators quoted in the complaint do not alter the court's analysis, which we said from day one, but so many people felt like we was tripping. In a world in which billions of people are active online, support for almost any proposition, no matter how far-fetched, fantastical, or unreasonable, can be found with little effort in any number of comment sections, chat rooms, and servers, meaning Just because you have people that will believe anything does not mean that that's what the reasonable listener will conclude, right? Reasonable listener. That is the word being used all throughout this analysis here. That some readers may infer a defamatory meaning from a statement does not necessarily render the inference reasonable under the circumstances. The artist's 7-track rap battle was a war of words that was the subject of substantial media scrutiny and online discourse. Although the accusation that plaintiff is a PDF is certainly a serious one, the broader context of a heated rap battle with incendiary language and offensive accusations hurled by both participants would not incline the reasonable listener to believe that Not Like Us imparts verifiable facts about plaintiff. Image and video. To the extent that the plaintiff alleges that the image and video are independently actionable, the court holds that they too constitute opinion. The image is the album cover for Not Like Us. It thus shares the same overall context as the recording itself. Oh, okay. The image is designed to reinforce the message of the recording. And as the court has already found, that message is protected opinion. Additionally, the image itself, with its overlay of more than a dozen SO markers, is obviously exaggerated and doctored. No reasonable person would view the image and believe that, in fact, law enforcement had designated 13 residents in Drake's home as SOs. The figurative imagery accompanying the music video also constitutes protected opinion. Plaintiff alleges, for example, that the video depicts a prolonged shot of a live owl in a cage, projecting the message that Drake belongs behind bars. An image of a caged owl cannot reasonably be understood to convey a factual message. It's just symbolism. Similarly, depicting Kendrick Lamar playing hopscotch while singing the A minor lyric is not suggestive of objective reporting. B. Mixed opinion. Although pure opinion cannot constitute actionable defamation, mixed opinion, which is an opinion that implies that it is based upon facts which justify the opinion but are unknown to those reading or hearing it, is actionable. Interesting. Mixed opinion holds the implication that the speaker knows certain facts unknown to his audience which support his opinion and are detrimental to the person about whom he is speaking. Whether statements constitute mixed opinion presents a legal question which must be answered by considering, in the context of the entire communication and of the circumstances in which they were spoken or written, whether the average listener would reasonably understand the opinion is implying the assertion of undisclosed facts justifying the opinion. Just as the overall context of Not Like Us forecloses the argument that his lyrics can be read as factual assertions, the same context negates any implication that Lamar's lyrics are based upon undisclosed facts. So even all that I heard and all that stuff that Drake was trying to lean on, it's not holding up. Okay, holding that where statements are made in circumstances where an audience may anticipate the use of epithets, fiery rhetoric, or hyperbole, inference could not be reasonably drawn that assertions were made based on undisclosed facts. In the context of this rap diss battle, no reasonable person would listen to Not Like Us and assume that Lamar uniquely had access to credible, provable facts that revealed Drake to be a PDF. Plaintiff's arguments that the lyrics to Not Like Us can be read to suggest Lamar's reliance upon undisclosed facts is unavailing. Plaintiff first posits that the line "Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young" indicates that Lamar had heard from outside sources evidence confirming that Drake is a PDF. As discussed, Infra, however, that ignores that this line is reasonably understood to be a direct response to Drake's challenge to Lamar in tailor-made freestyle to talk about Drake liking young girls. Heard it on the Budden podcast has got to be true. This lyric clearly prods Lamar to discuss pre-existing rumors about Drake's interest in minors. Lamar's responsive lyrics are thus akin to the accusation of PDF in Terrain that the Second Circuit concluded constituted pure opinion. There, the Second Circuit concluded that a reasonable person would understand based on the context that the defendant disc jockey was using the term PDF in response to directly pertinent comments made by plaintiff during their war of words and was not relying upon undisclosed facts. Because again, if Kendrick Lamar had undisclosed facts about you, then you would be admitting that he's telling the truth about you. Continued. Plaintiff next points to the lyrics. Rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further, I promise. Plaintiff argues that a reasonable listener could view this lyric as suggesting that Lamar has specific evidence to back up his assertions of PDF. It is not at all clear that this is a natural reading of this lyric. What we have here in the footnotes. Plaintiff claims that this interpretation is disputed and that the court would require vital witness testimony in order to properly understand this lyric's meaning. Yet at oral argument, plaintiff's counsel could not provide the court with any alternative understanding of this lyric. Remember, they got pounded in that damn hearing. Furthermore, in the Hart Part 6, Drake confirms that he understands Lamar to be referring to these pre-existing rumors when Drake rapped, "Only fucking with Whitney's, not Millie Bobby Brown's. I never looked twice at no teenager." To understand the relevant context for these back and forths, the court takes judicial notice of the fact that Millie Bobby Brown is a well-known actress and that she has given interviews stating that she and Drake formed a friendship when she was 14 years old and he was 32 years old. Lynn Hirschberg, Millie Bobby Brown is already an icon for generations, so they link to the article. If this line was susceptible to such an interpretation standing alone, however, no reasonable listener could understand it in this way given the overall context. Indeed, during this rap battle, Drake and Lamar each used similar hyperbolic threatening language. But don't tell no lie about me and I won't tell truths about you. Your darkest secrets are coming to light. That's a Drake bar. I've been in this industry 12 years. I'm going to tell y'all one little secret. It's some weird shit going on and some of these artists be here to police it. That's Kendrick. I got your fucking lines tapped. I swear that I'm dialed in. What about the bones we dug up in that excavation? That's Drake. This kind of posturing in a rap diss track does not make such lines more likely to be understood by the ordinary listener to be anything but pure opinion. Okay? Second-degree harassment. New York does not recognize a civil cause of action for harassment. New York does not recognize a cause of action to recover damages for harassment. With regard to the alleged harassment, New York does not recognize a common law cause of action to recover damages for harassment cleaned up. Notwithstanding this precedent, plaintiff attempts to bring a claim for harassment under Section 240.263 of the New York Penal Code. A person commits harassment in the second degree when they hold the intent to harass, annoy, or alarm another person and engage in a course of conduct or repeatedly commit acts which alarm or seriously annoy such other person and which serve to no legitimate purpose. Plaintiff alleges that the recording, video, and image individually and collectively provide a call to target Drake, including through violence, crazy talk, and the defendant's course of conduct in publishing specific and unequivocal threats of violence has placed plaintiff in reasonable fear of physical harm. That is the most crazy shit ever. This nigga really took Kendrick's lines of wop, 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 wop as physical threats. But this nigga's literally talking about slitting Kendrick's throat with the razor and hitting niggas with the shells from the clip. And anybody that was riding with that shit is a dumbass. This state criminal statute does not provide a private right of action, however. Accordingly, plaintiff fails to state a claim for harassment. Under New York law, where a penal statute does not expressly confer a private right of action on individuals pursuing civil relief, recovery under such a statute may be only had if a private right of action may be fairly implied. To determine whether a criminal statute gives rise to a private right of action, courts look at three factors. 1, plaintiff must be one of the class for whose benefit the statute was enacted. 2, recognition of a private right of action must promote the legislative purpose. And 3, creation of such a right must be consistent with the legislative scheme. The third factor's bar is high because, as a general rule, when a statute is contained solely within the penal law section, the New York legislature intended it as a police regulation to be enforced only by a court of criminal jurisdiction. Thus, rarely is there a private right of action under a criminal statute. Okay, in Hammer, the New York Court of Appeals concluded that there was no private right of action under animal protection criminal statutes because enforcement authority lies with police and societies for the prevention of cruelty to animals, and violations are handled in criminal proceedings. Again, they're just making references to other cases in which these statutes are upheld. In light of this comprehensive statutory enforcement scheme, recognizing a private right of action would be inconsistent with legislative intent. Consistent with this precedent, courts routinely dismiss civil harassment claims as not cognizable under New York law. We'll skip past these references. While plaintiff cites cases in which courts have recognized a private right of action for criminal harassment under New York law, most of this authority predates Hammer. As for the two cited cases that post-date Hammer, neither of those cases mention Hammer or engage in the analysis required by the New York Court of Appeals to imply a private right of action from a provision of the penal law. There is nothing to distinguish criminal harassment from other provisions of the New York Criminal Code for which there is no implied private right of action. The New York legislature conferred authority to enforce the criminal harassment statute upon local law enforcement. We have therefore declined to recognize a private right of action in instances where the legislature specifically considered and expressly provided for enforcement mechanisms in the statute itself. There are no indications in the statutory scheme that the legislature intended to confer a civil cause of action for violation of Section 242.6. Plaintiff's claim for harassment must therefore be dismissed. Now, let's get to New York general business law, where Drake said that consumers were being deceived. Plaintiff's final cause of action, brought under Section 349 of New York general business law, fares no better. Section 349 prohibits deceptive acts or practices in the conduct of any business, trade, or commerce in the furnishing of any service. Plaintiff alleges that on information and belief, defendant engaged in deceptive acts and practices in the conduct of business, trade, and commerce by covertly financially incentivizing third parties, including music platforms and social media influencers, to play, stream, and promote the recording, none of which has been proven. As one example, plaintiff alleges that he understands that UMG covertly paid a popular NFR podcast, remember, NFR podcast Twitter got knocked the fuck down, to promote the recording and publish podcast episodes and other content about the recording. On information and belief, plaintiff further claims that UMG used its resources to incentivize third parties to use bots to stream the recording and subsequently extolled the recording streaming numbers on Spotify while knowing that millions of the streams were false and fraudulent. Remember all that drama about Kojo and where's Kojo and where the fuck is he at? Where'd he go? Judge said, I don't give a fuck where he at. Lastly, the amended complaint alleges that UMG paid at least one radio promoter to engage in pay-for-play arrangements or payola of the recording on New York radio stations. Hold on, y'all. I'm hearing some buzzing here. I don't like that shit. To successfully state a claim under Section 349, a plaintiff must demonstrate that 1, the defendant's deceptive acts were directed at consumers. 2, the acts are misleading in a material way. And 3, the plaintiff has been injured as a result. Plaintiff asserts that the defendant's deceptive acts, all right, cool, we still good, and practices were intended to inflate the public's view of the recording's popularity and success, which would lead a reasonable consumer of music to be materially misled. Defendant first argues that plaintiff uses an improper pleading device as his Section 349 allegations all rest upon information and belief and do not go beyond pure conjecture and speculation, meaning he came with no evidence of these accusations. Plaintiff counters that the applicable standard is plausibility under Ashcroft v. Iqbal. Okay. Twombly does not prevent a plaintiff from pleading facts on information and belief in appropriate circumstances, but the plaintiff may only do so where the facts are peculiarly within the possession and control of the defendant or where the belief is based on factual information that makes the inference of culpability plausible. In that scenario, the allegations must be accompanied by a statement of the facts upon which the belief is founded. Plaintiff argues that both Pachter conditions are satisfied because the amended complaint alleges that UMG made indirect payments to a wide array of unknown third parties and also pleads sufficient factual information concerning UMG's scheme, including examples thereof, contemporary reports, as well as UMG's past practices. At oral argument, Plaintiff stressed that Not Like Us was the fastest song to reach 300 million streams on Spotify within just 35 days, which plaintiff argues is a sufficient basis for the court to infer that defendant implemented a technique to manipulate stream totals among other unprecedented tactics to reach unprecedented rocketing up the streaming chart. So they brought no actual information or facts. They only had the belief saying because it was so popular and so fast, they had to have been botting or paying people off. They done went through discovery phase, all type of shit, contracts being submitted, and nothing was proven. The court disagrees. To allege that UMG implemented covert practices to manipulate streams of Not Like Us and inflate the recording's perceived popularity, plaintiff relies on tweets by individual users and reporting from fans to allege that UMG utilized covert tactics to manipulate streams of Not Like Us. The court finds plaintiff's reliance on online comments and reporting insufficient to meet the plausibility standard. We've been saying that from the fucking jump too. Surprised it took so long. Judge was playing kind of coy, wasn't it? A small sample of users' possible experience communicated through tweets and other anonymized commentary fails to establish a plausible inference that UMG manipulated listeners into streaming Not Like Us instead of Drake's music. What happened to the testimonies of those UMG workers that were fired? While these covert practices of providing financial incentives to undisclosed third parties and leveraging of business relationships, if they exist, may be facts that are peculiarly within the possession and control of UMG, plaintiff's allegations, based on what boils down to unreliable online commentary, do not form a sufficient factual basis such that there is a reasonable expectation that discovery will reveal evidence of illegality. So referencing Joe Budden and a DJ that don't spin is not strong enough. Got your shit tossed. Pause. Even if the court accepted plaintiff's pleadings on information and belief, plaintiff still has not stated a claim for relief under Section 349. Plaintiff has not sufficiently alleged deceptive practices that are consumer-oriented. Under New York law, the term consumer is consistently associated with an individual or natural person who purchases goods, services, or property primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. When it came to his consumer-oriented allegations, he used himself as the example. Go read through that nigga's lawsuit. It's in there. A defendant engages in consumer-oriented activity if the company's actions cause any consumer injury or harm to the public interest. He said, all these streams going to Kendrick Lamar are messing up my royalties. That's what he said. While Section 349 does not preclude an action brought by one business competitor against another, it is at its core a consumer protection device. The amended complaint does not indicate how any of the deceptive practices allegedly utilized by UMG harm consumers. For example, the amended complaint does not allege that consumers paid more than they otherwise would have for a product, purchased a product that they otherwise would not have because of misrepresentations regarding the product, or otherwise received less in value for any purchases that they did make. So when he and his legal team tried to use this law, they completely misrepresented what this law even meant. Because consumer deception would have been about the purchasing practices of actual consumers and something being misleading to them. False advertising. Wow. You really shat the bed on this one, boy. Holding that Section 349 is limited to deceptive practices that pertain to an issue that may bear on a consumer's decision to participate in a particular transaction or which undermine a consumer's ability to evaluate his or her market options and to make a free and intelligent choice. The amended complaint is somewhat vague as to who the class of consumers is and what product, goods, or services they are purchasing. It is not clear how the alleged redirection of Spotify users who are searching for other unrelated songs and artists to the recording would amount to actual harm of consumers or any limitation of their choices. At most, the allegations suggest that UMG engaged in practices to make Not Like Us seem more popular than it actually was without connecting that activity to any consumer harm. Such practices, without more, do not state a claim under Section 349 of the GBL. Right? And this is not the judge saying that they bought it. They say they suggest. Such practices, without more, do not state a claim under Section 349 of the GBL. Conclusion: defendant's motion to dismiss is granted. And of course, the defendant is UMG. The clerk of the court is respectfully directed to terminate ECF numbers 42, 78, and 81 to close the case. And this is a judge dismissal, not a voluntary dismissal from Drake. Oh boy, I wonder what Maul's gonna say tonight. Rory and Maul, I know y'all in that studio. Go ahead and hit record. Where's the $1 billion deal being offered there? This is gonna be the biggest thing. He's gonna be at the World Cup. Come on with it. Oh man, hold on. Let me go see what the OVO docket has to say. Let me see how they try to spin this one. Oh man, it brings me so much joy to know that they blocked me. Every time I come over here, I just want to see. Update. Okay, so you're not even disputing it. Good shit. Good shit. So they just reported respectfully and kept it moving. Salute to the OVO docket for at least being classy today. Good job. So from here, it's going to be very interesting to see what the future holds for Certified Law Boy and his music career. Will UMG come back and bring him back to the negotiation table? Offer him a new deal to re-up and continue business as usual? Will they allow him to be dropped and go pursue a record deal with Sony where his OVO label is already housed? Will they drop him? It's going to be very interesting. Is the Iceman album going to be officially released now that they've gotten out of litigation? If it is to be released, is UMG going to support the album in terms of promotion and investment and trying to put him back where he believes he should be in terms of marketing? Or is this the beginning of the end of the so-called dominant saga of the artist known as Drake? I don't have the answers, a la Justin Hunt. Shout out. But we could tell you it's all happening. I know that motherfucking much. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, become an insider. I will catch y'all on the next one. This is some explosive shit. This is one of the biggest cases we've ever seen. And that shit did not go in Homeboy's favor. I know it's going to be a fucking riot. I'll see y'all later, though. Peace.
Yeah, family over fame in this bitch, yeah. The glory of living righteous is setting in. My street knowledge and education's a perfect blend. Young mogul, independent, I've been setting trends. The first one from my family to be faithfully wed. Fuck niggas and the horses that they riding on. I see this shit from all angles like a polygon. I'm never politicking, the drama be piling on. Father and great son acknowledged like I'm Bobby Bonds. Conversation with my lady about the paper route. 5 sit bank accounts, every day I make it count. They down talking my commentary for hating now. Well, I can take it cause I'm bodying your favorite now, please. I can do this shit in my sleep. I been writing for these niggas, y'all read it and weep. I been fighting these niggas if you speak on the street. I turn your birthday party into New Year's Eve. Don't let me take it there. We ain't playing fair. This the ATL, Southside nigga moving furniture like Wayfair. Life on hold, no insurance for your healthcare. Lifeline gone, so you wanna be a millionaire? Well, let me tell you about this world I built. The women I dodged, the niggas that I read for filth. The sympathy card